U.S. political analyst here at CTV News. Eric Ham is standing by here. Meeting not scheduled yet, Eric, but what do you think we can expect once they do meet?
I think there's going to be a lot of conversations around these tariffs and Donald Trump's efforts to continue to engage in this economic warfare against America's biggest trading partner. Clearly, it's hurting the United States and it's also hurting Canada. Now, we know that the newly elected prime minister is prepared to move on from the United States, and I think that's certainly wise. But again, what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's policies are having tremendous and debilitating impact on the United States as well as the rest of the world, especially its close relationship and alliance with its northern neighbor, Canada.
We know that the prime minister is no doubt getting lots of advice, Eric, on how to handle Trump, so to speak. He has been quite defiant when it comes to Donald Trump. What would your advice be going into a meeting with a politician, a president like Donald Trump?
Well, what we're seeing from Donald Trump, even as his poll numbers, his approval ratings marking his 100 days in office are the worst in history. And now we're getting these very abysmal economic numbers about the economy. What we are seeing from the president is a doubling down on policies and, of course, his rhetoric and behavior that continues to turn off not only the American people, but also America's closest allies. And I think as we continue to see that, I think how the prime minister needs to handle Donald Trump is with strength. Clearly, Donald Trump continues to exhibit bullying behavior where cruelty is the point. And I think what we need to continue to see, not only from the prime minister, but very much like what we're seeing from China, are leaders that are prepared to stand up to Donald Trump and stand up to his policies and his rhetoric that speak to an America that simply is not what many people are familiar with and, quite frankly, don't understand with this president at the helm.
As you know, the prime minister is a former central banker, not only in Canada, but also in the United Kingdom. So he's got a lot of experience when it comes to economic issues. We also know that the president respects strength. We've seen a certain amount of defiance from Mark Carney. And I wonder whether you think that will resonate at the White House.
I think what this president believes is that liberals actually give him the best opportunity to engage, not only in his rhetoric, but also to make Canada subservient to the United States. And I think what we need to see, especially from Mark Carney, is that that simply is not going to take hold. We know about the demeaning behavior and language used towards the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And I think what we're seeing here is a far more steely resolve from the Prime Minister. And I think that's actually a good sign in terms of the relationship. Already, we know the first phone call that took place between the two men was very glowing, very warm. Both of them said as much. But again, we continue to see what happens in person and then what Donald Trump continues to say both in his meetings and engagement with the press is something very different. And I think what Mark Carney needs to recognize is that what Donald Trump says to his face is very different in terms of his actions and what he will say when he's not around.
Hey, one final question, whether you think, and I'm just curious about this, Mark Carney's experience, you know, in sort of global economic circles, whether that will afford him some respect from the president.
No, not at all. Clearly, what we're seeing from the president is this just simply doesn't matter. He believes that tariffs are actually working. In fact, if you look at his most recent interview with ABC News, this is someone who is struggling mightily with the reality of what's actually happening. And because you've got a former central banker and now the new prime minister who clearly had a very stunning political comeback, that's just not going to comport with the president who has his own ideas, no matter how wrong they are.
Eric Ham, U.S. political analyst for us here at CTV News, with his take on this upcoming meeting between Donald Trump and the prime minister. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you as always.
You bet. Thank you.